Hello, everybody. Welcome to After the Credits number 75. Hope everyone enjoyed that little Christmas jazz. I pressed the wrong button there, but I was like, you know what? Still a vibe.
Yeah, that still
Taz,
sounds good. How's it
back
going?
with us. How are you?
Yes,
Going
I'm doing
on?
well. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. We're in another wrap-up area of the show, I
Yes.
guess.
Yes, we are.
We
Kind of coinciding with the official beginning of summer as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like these last couple summers, and I guess this goes into what we were talking about last week, but I feel
Yeah.
like the last couple summers have been so booked with TV shows. This feels like the first summer in a while that's like traditional summer where there aren't a lot of network TV shows on, or there's not just a lot of like big mainstream shows going on. Like this would be the time of year that like the Arrowverse stuff and like your CW and your ABC shows used to kind of wrap up. So
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, really, the biggest things that are airing this summer TV wise would be Dexter, I believe. Like that's the only thing I can really think of as far as like big
all
television for the
binge
summer.
drops.
Yes,
Everything coming out this
yes.
summer, like you have Squid Games, you have Wednesday, you have Ginny and Georgia, you have a couple of the Bear, and like a lot of these shows, but they're all binge drops, and it's like it
and
comes
Dexter
out
Resurrection
a day.
will
Phineas and
most
Ferb's
likely
about
be
to come out. Like a lot of these are just like
Yes.
these drops, and it's like
Yeah, Phineas and Ferb is going to come out as a binge too.
the first 10 episodes are, yes.
Oh my, they're dropping 10 at once. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really, and we'll get to these comments here in a second, guys. I really hate what Disney Channel has been doing that because they did the same thing with the like Wizards revival where they dropped the first 10 on streaming, but then it's airing live on the like Disney Channel kind of thing.
Oh, throughout the weeks, and then after those
like
10,
later in the year they're dropping the other 10. It's like, oh, I don't like that. I
That's
wish
an interesting release schedule.
Yeah, I like that's a show I think would be fun to just do weekly. Like it's not like a very like discussionary show, but I still think it'd be fun. I feel like it
100%.
dropping all at once, it's like kind of more of like an overview. I feel like you don't get to talk about the like little mini grinnies and stuff like that. But
yeah.
How do we feel, guys, about this new kind of comment system that we have going on? The new like layout for that. I
fun.
I don't hate it. Yeah. I
nice.
I don't hate it.
It's nice.
Let's chill with some of the people in the chat really here quickly. One Marvel fan's in the house. Hello, one Marvel fan. How's it going? Maddie's returning this week. Hello, Maddie. Love the profile picture. I've been listening to that little guy on YouTube all week. It's one of those characters introduced in Doctor Who last week. It's one of those like alien things. I'll have to send you the like little video because it's like one of those like early 2000 catchy song like little creatures. And I was like, this thing's stupid, and I started listening to it. Like, you know what? This is kind of a bop. This is kind of jam.
It looks like a Yo Gabba Gabba kind of guy.
It's very Muppets. It's very Muppets. Very Yo Gabba Gabba.
Or like a Sesame Street kind of. Yeah.
Yes. Very very on par. Just jump in for a minute to say hi. Have a good stream. Hello, Flash Freak. Thanks for being here.
How's it going, man?
Hello, Jeffrey. How's it going? How's it going?
Hey.
Don't forget to hit the like button. Yes, hit the like button. And we are
Yes.
officially 10 watch hours away from getting remonetized on YouTube. I just checked today. You guys have been killing it with the views lately. Thank you so much. Maddie said, I saw they might be considering splitting Stranger Things into 3 parts going into 2026.
Oh gosh, I did see that as well.
I don't know how.
I did see that
it's
as well.
8 episodes. It's
I
8.
mean, if they're all gonna be like what, 2, like probably hour and a half, 2-hour episodes,
I don't
like
think
the
they
last
are.
season. Oh really?
I think they said they're all like 45-minute episodes. Like if there was more episodes this season, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Because I actually really liked what Cobra Kai did in this final season, where they did 5 episode drops. They did 5 3-episode drops, if that makes sense. I said that wrong.
3 5-episode drops.
3 5-episode drops, and they felt like they were kind of like split into various like little arcs, and like it kind of made sense the way they were dropping them, and they all kind of had like stopping points. And if it was something like that, I could be like, okay, all right. But 8 episodes, like 40-minute episodes, 3 times, what is that?
You could do 3 3
and 2.
Yeah, and maybe those last 2 episodes are maybe longer episodes, but yeah. Again, I've not watched it in years. Like I said, last season that I saw was
season 3.
Was it?
I think.
Yeah, it was what, food court season?
Yeah,
mall season. Yeah, season 3. If people say good things about this final season, I might catch up beforehand. But as Darren and I are always discussing, we have, or at least I have a massive list.
Yeah.
I have, like, it just keeps growing, and I'll be like scrolling TikTok and I'll like add a movie that I just see on there that I want to watch, or add a series. Yeah,
new shows to get caught up on.
Yeah, I mean, I think like every week I just need to like have a check-in and say, all right, guys, this is what I got through. This is what I didn't get through. Yeah. And I will say I got through, I should get a gold star for this. I got through 1 whole episode of Andor this whole week. So I have one final episode left. Not really going to talk a ton about it this week, but I will just say I am in a lot of ways enjoying these last few episodes more than I enjoyed the whole show. One of the episodes focused more so on a character that I didn't realize I enjoyed as much until we got a full episode dedicated to this character, and it makes me wish that we had gotten more of that character throughout the whole series run. And we could talk about that a little bit more once you've seen it, once I've seen the final episode, that sort of thing. But that's my little tease, is a slight, slightly more positive spin on it, but I think still overall kind of missed the mark there for me.
Gotcha. Phil's in the chat. Hello, Phil. Phil said, just like Stranger Things, die.
Yeah.
While I disagree on how I feel about the show, as I love Stranger Things, I do agree. I am excited. I'm excited for it to finally be over. Like, I love it. I will miss it, but it's time for it to wrap up. And
I will say, I used to love it. I loved it when it first came out. I really did. Like, I had, I got all the Funkos. I got a couple T-shirts. Like, I was all in on the hype train, and then I just dropped off. I just
fun.
Lost interest.
I do understand though, because it is such a long break. Like,
yeah, and it was those breaks that killed it for me.
Going into season 4 was a weird feeling, because it did feel like the show ended at season 3. It felt like that was the final season, and it felt like going into this alternate reality where it hadn't ended. It was like,
in my mind, like, oddly enough, I was okay with how season 3 ended. Like, if canonically that's how it ended, I'm cool with it. Or it just at this point, like, in my mind, since I haven't seen season 4. Don't have massive plans on seeing season 5. Like, that's where it does end for me in my mind. And I guess that's the beauty too with a lot of shows, is if you want it to be done after a certain point in your own headcanon, it can be.
Sure. Are they movie length? Are they? I thought I heard them say that, like, they were trying to like lessen that in season 5, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, and like, if that's the case, then I would be more willing for them to be splitting it up like that. But with that logic, I'm like, just make more episodes. Just make like 10 or 12 episodes a season than like 8.
I don't know. So would you rather have 8 hour-long episodes or 4 2-hour-long episodes? if that makes sense.
Say that again.
Would you rather have, what would it be? Four 4 2-hour episodes or
Or
8
2 hour.
1-hour episodes. Got to do some math.
Probably 8 1-hour episodes, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always very thrown off by these like really, really, really long episodes. Like
Yeah.
I loved the final couple episodes of Stranger Things. I thought like of the previous season, the like 2.5-hour finale. That was like, holy shit, this thing is crazy.
It's like literally a movie.
But it's like it is a lot for one sitting.
Yeah.
And
I think if you're gonna call yourself a TV show, like I don't even know what the cutoff would be for me. I feel like anything over like an hour and 10, maybe an hour 15 for an episode is approaching movie length. I feel like once you hit the hour 20 mark, you've hit movie length.
Yeah. I think my only exception would be like series finale in that case of like the final episode, go crazy, have fun with it.
Yeah. But at that point too, you can do like a lot of network shows do is a 2-part finale. So it's basically a 2-hour episode or one episode bleeds into the next one, but it's split into those 2 episodes. So at that point, it doesn't necessarily matter that whether they're individual episodes or one big long episode, because most viewers are going to watch them back to back as if it was one whole product.
Sure. Jeffrey said, I haven't started the final episodes for Andor. I'm lazy. Fair.
Again, we're not missing too much from what I've seen. And I know how it ends. Like I saw people post about it day of.
It's so interesting to see that perspective though, too, because like I have one of my other best friends have come to me. Like I hear you say that every week, and this friend loves Andor. Like he thinks that these final batch of episodes is the best Star Wars has ever been.
It's so funny though, is there's no in between. There's no in between.
Exactly.
You're either on my side, right? You're either on my side where I'm like, this is the most boring piece of Star Wars media I've ever seen. It literally puts me to sleep. I get through 10 minutes of the episode, I get distracted, and I want to go watch or do something else. And there's the other side, like you said, is people that are like, oh, this is the greatest, Star Wars media ever. Like I want more things like this, and it just I don't feel that, and it's I wish that I did, and I think is the sentiment that I've been trying to convey the whole time. Is I'm not trying to just hate on the show for the hate or for the sake of hating on it or like hate watching it. Like I am strategically watching it in a way to try to confirm what I already believe to be the truth in my mind, that I don't enjoy it. Is I want there to be an episode that changes my mind to be like, oh, maybe I was wrong about this. And to an extent, the first couple episodes of this last, batch of 3 sort of did, but it's not quite where I want it to be. Is like, if maybe this was how the season started, like, sure, I might have been hooked kind of from the beginning, but it just doesn't do that for me. And again, maybe I'm weird, but also that's why, again, there's so many other pieces of Star Wars for everybody else to enjoy. And I'd much rather listen to a 2-hour compilation of people talking to AI Darth Vader than watch another episode of Andor, which sounds so terrible to say, but it just, again, that's my position right now.
Sure. Like it seemed like one of those situations where it's like this one just didn't connect with you, and I think that's valid. I feel like that's okay. It's just like everyone looks for something different in Star Wars and or just in media as a whole. Before we get into kind of our main shows today, though, I wanted to do a little segment here because I've been thinking about this a lot this week. I made a post this week. I think it was shortly after we streamed last week. I made a post. This goes back to our Arrowverse days. It's been a while since I made an Arrowverse related post.
Oh yeah.
I made a little post and it did very well. It did. Yeah. It got like 23,000 likes. And I was like, holy shit!
There's no way. I did not realize that. Jeez.
Oh my phone's been blowing up this week. And I think
you gotta mute the notifications on it at this point.
100%. And a tweet does this well for me or something like that does well for me. It's like I think about it a lot, and I find myself retrospectively looking at this era, thinking about it, and I thought God could kind of be fun to talk about this a little bit. Just retrospectively looking back at this arc for John Diggle, and I was taken aback to those final 3 years of the Arrowverse while they were still on, and what they were trying to do here, and what they were trying to build. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? Do you wish they wouldn't have gone this route with what they were doing with John Diggle? Do you wish they could have committed more? Would you rather them not have done this at all?
It was the largest missed opportunity, I think, throughout the entirety of the Arrowverse. The fact that it was a fan theory for so long that they finally kind of gave into and was like, you know what? Sure. We'll give it to you. And not only did they give us that little bit of a tease, but they were like, no, he's going to continue to show up in the other shows after Arrow has been over. He's going to have a little bit of an arc. And then, obviously, the state of the world at the time shifted things, changed, the direction that they were going to be going in. And I feel like that is probably the biggest reason why we didn't get it. Plus, obviously, all of kind of the shakeups as far as, CW going away as it stood at that point. Obviously, behind the scenes stuff as far as probably what was happening on the TV and movie side of things, with the Lanterns TV show and everything like that. But yeah, in hindsight, in retrospect, we could have gone a couple different routes with it. Either tease it and then we never see Diggle again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I think is maybe the wrong way to go with it.
Oh, interesting.
Or you go full force into it and fully commit to the bit. Give him a suit, give him the ring, or something like that. Or I guess option number 3 or door number 3 is just not tease this at all.
Sure.
If you know you can't do it and you want to still use the character. I just think that it started out as the biggest thing of pleasing the fan base and confirming that fan theory, but then turned into the largest slap in the face of yeah, we were gonna do it, now we can't, so just rug pull moment right at the very end.
You're right. Yeah, and I think retrospectively, this probably should have been the last time we saw Diggle. I love Diggle so much. He's one of my comfort characters from Arrow, but I do think this was very, very close to ruining the reputation of that character. He is one of the longest running Arrowverse characters, and I don't think it's their fault. Obviously, I think there's a lot of things at play. Like you said, they tried. They were trying. They were building it up to the point where we were getting Justice U. And I know a lot of people said out of Justice U, was oh, they're trying to wipe away the Green Lantern. I don't think that was the case. I do think there would have been a portion of him that was Green Lantern in Justice U. I think
if it was even set on Earth Prime at that point.
Well,
because there were all
the
those...
original pitch of Justice U.
Yeah, and then it eventually probably moved over to Superman and Lois's Earth, and oh my gosh, we're going down the down the rabbit hole.
The oh my, that was such a weird era of the fandom. There was such a panic. There was such a weirdness around that entire thing.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, and looking back at those episodes, if I ever go back and rewatch some of those, and I do want to eventually, but man, it was a lot of build up. It was a lot of building a foundation that's actually pretty good if they would have paid it off, right? It's very similarly to what they were doing with Legends of Tomorrow, where they were slowly planting the seeds, introducing these characters. They had the 2-part little crossover events on the Flash and Arrow crossover where they set up the Vandal Savage stuff. And to me, that feels like what this is doing. It's introducing each one of the shows to this character, reintroducing him, setting the stage, and then eventually the following year he would have got his own backdoor pilots or something, or whatever, to officially do the show. And yeah, it was COVID at the time, right? It was COVID.
Yeah.
And then it mainly was Nexstar.
And the Nexstar stuff,
literally the entire studio shutting down, and it's not only this show not happening; it's none of the shows are happening, nor the these shows that are currently airing staying on the air. So
Yeah,
it's
I would
really
I would just love to hear the behind the scenes of it. Like, if somebody could ask a David Ramsey at a convention, like, hey, so was what happened with Diggle the original plan? Like,
Mm,
was that supposed to be a Green Lantern ring? Was he supposed to accept it? Was he supposed to be, John Stewart, basically? And I would love to get his take on that, his response to that, to the best of what he can say, because I'm sure there's still some stuff that can't necessarily be said.
right.
I wonder if they're somehow, some way leaving the door open for something like that eventually, like,
Sure.
maybe like a multiversal type of thing that they, bring in. Like, I don't know, because I mean, again, James Gunn is bringing in tons of different elements from past things. Like, I wouldn't put it past them to, maybe throw them like,
A
a
bone.
background Green Lantern character
I've
or
said
something
that.
like that
Yeah.
in the Lantern series, or
A
give
blink
him
and you
like
miss it kind of thing.
exactly. Which again, I feel like could even pour even more salt into the wound. Like, we never got him in the Arrowverse, and we're just, he's relegated to a cameo kind of thing. I wouldn't love that. I think best case scenario here, we wait that 10-15 years for the Arrowverse reunion, and when they bring everybody back, he is just full on Green Lantern in this
Cool.
new, Justice League that they have on TV. Like, there were so many restrictions and so many, I guess, logistical and legal hoops that they would have to jump through for it to actually be a thing. I'm happy that they tried, but upset at the fact that they teased us so hard just to rug pull it at the end.
I'll be curious because like people keep talking about like they couldn't use Green Lantern. I don't think that's necessarily the case because I think if they I think if they weren't allowed, they wouldn't have been setting it up the way they were.
Yeah,
And then there's a whole thing like Stargirl
I was about
had
to
a
say
Green
Stargirl
Lantern.
used Green Lantern.
Yeah,
Wasn't there a Green Lantern on Legends, or at least a reference to a lantern? I feel
there
like.
was no official Green Lantern in Legends, but I wouldn't put past some kind of cameo or Easter egg
Yeah,
or
and
I
like
think
even at
there
the
was like a Hal Jordan
yeah
reference or something
in
in
Arrow.
Arrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they always used Ferris Air in the Flash and everything too. So
Yeah. No, it's
you know,
it's it's very interesting like looking back retrospectively and it's like I do wonder what Justice U would have looked like, you know, because like that show could have been literally anything and like I kept telling people that I think like it probably would have looked a lot like what Martian Manhunter looked like on Supergirl, where it's
Mhm.
like it's not every episode Green Lantern out fighting crime and doing all this stuff, but I do think he would have shown up maybe every couple episodes, every couple whatevers to be like, yes, I have the ring, I'm using my powers. Because obviously they didn't have the full budget to do full on Green Lantern
Yeah,
on CW. They just
but
didn't.
like they all they needed to do was like some cool little green effects. Like, I didn't need to see a ton. I just wanted a suit and some glowing green stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that's that.
Yeah, like I would have been happy even if like in one of the episodes he like puts it on, he does like a punch or something, and that's it. Like
And
it's
that,
just like
yeah, just
he's there, he's using the
satisfy the
powers.
fan base, and the story continues.
Right. Let's go through some of these comments.
Yeah,
Didn't Eric Wallace try to act like it as if he was never going to be Green Lantern, but obviously they're 100% after
yeah.
the event happened. He's like, no, this was always the plan. This is always what we were
Same,
meant to
and
do.
again, same thing that they said with Superman and Lois, and oh, it was always the plan that they were on a different
Mm.
Earth kind of thing.
But
Again,
that's
it worked out in the end, but it was obviously not the original plan
But that's
because
so BS too, because he was planning Darkest Night for season 10. Or that's what he claims.
yeah,
So it's like, which one is it? Would you
yeah,
have done another Green Lantern that wasn't John Diggle? No.
yeah,
That wouldn't have made much
yeah,
sense at all. It was like, it was
yeah,
clear. It's so clear that that was your backdoor pilot. that Blackest Night event. You would have done that event, and then after that event, you would have officially announced the John Diggle, Justice League, Green Lantern, whatever the heck that show was. That was clearly the plan and the direction, and it all just kind of fell apart, and that's fine. It happens. But, like, don't be... I can go on a whole rant on Eric Wallace, and we have, Taz. Me and you have gone on these rants with Eric Wallace. The, like, biggest bullshit man I've ever met in my life, or
he talks in circles and tells the interviewer what they want to hear. Is what I have learned over the years.
Oh yeah,
and there are a lot of people who do interviews like that, but I feel like, not to, glaze them too hard, but I think the way that James Gunn does press is very well. Is basically like, hey, if we didn't announce it, it's not happening. If we do announce it, it's official. I'm gonna still also leave some stuff up to speculation for you, but I'm not going to promise you something and not deliver, or at least not attempt to deliver on it. And I think that that's all you can really ask for. And that's really the biggest issue that a lot of these studios and a lot of these directors and things fall into nowadays, is promising or teasing out things that never come into fruition, or things that they might want to do end up changing their minds, and keep giving the fan base hope that this specific thing is still going to happen.
James Gunn's an interesting case, and I will get to the rest of these comments here in just a second, because it's like, he has kind of been caught in lies in times.
Yes.
But how much of it is intentional, and how much of it is like he was on the record saying, we're not doing Ultraman for Superman. And we're like, oh, okay, thanks, man. And then they did Ultraman for Superman, and we're like, I thought you said they weren't going to do that. So
unless it's like a placeholder or something, or they're calling him Ultraman until they figure out who he really is. I assume
he would have had to have known. Like, there's been various things, like a lot of those OG announcements that they made, and again, I don't blame Gunn for that. I blame just the like state of the world and stuff like that. But like, it's like, okay, and it could have been just like a studio thing as well, of like, hey, announce all these projects, get people excited. Maybe they weren't
announce them
ready
and
yet.
then figure it out afterwards.
Right.
And even hasn't there have been interviews where like even Stephen Amell kind of calls out DC for that too, where he's like, yeah, just stop announcing things and actually make a product. Which in a lot of ways
I get that take, but also it's like, you also need to promo stuff too. Like, you can't just say, hey, something's coming, and don't show anything. Like,
well, I think we need to take it like year by year, basically, right?
Agreed.
So I think we should know what's coming out this year, and then tease what's coming out next year, but don't go beyond that. Like, and I think that we kind of saw that issue very recently. I know this past week is when they announced that they pushed the dates for Doomsday and Secret Wars, which I don't have a problem with at all. But I think that the reason why we're seeing movies shift around like that is they announce things too early. Yeah. They announce too much too early, and they put things in places, and then they're like, oh, this other thing is coming out around the same time. This other thing is coming out around the same time. We got to move it. Or you start production on something when you've announced a date like 2-3 years out in the future, and you're like, oh, we're probably not going to be done in time. Let's, change it. Let's shift it. And you see that a lot of time with video games nowadays too. Like, if you follow any game pretty much, like, there's a 97.6% chance that it is going to get delayed by at least a few months. Like, look at what just happened with GTA 6. It's getting delayed and delayed and delayed. Like, the most recent Assassin's Creed game got delayed a few times. Like, I think, I can't remember a game that has come out on time, on schedule in the last, 3-4 years.
Right.
Like, things are always moving around, and it's because we announce things too early.
In games' defense, though, like, games take much longer than movies.
They do.
Movies and TV shows. And I feel like there has to be a proof of concept a little bit to get like backing and stuff like that. So you have to be like, hey guys,
but it's the same. But it's the same reason though that they get delayed is because they put developers or filmmakers under a time crunch, and it's like, hey, this thing is releasing on this day. It better be done by then.
Right.
then the studio looks at the product and is like, oh shoot, it really isn't going to be done by then. We do have to give these people more time to
Yeah.
develop or to create. And that is the issue.
And I think, going back to the thing of Marvel, like, I think they are learning. I think they knew that was a mistake. I think that was a Bob Chapek's thing of being like, hey, announce Blade and Fantastic Four and Armored Wars and all these things. It's like, Kevin Feige clearly had no intention on, doing this stuff yet. It was maybe in the back pocket, but it definitely was not ready back in 2021 at the time they were announcing it.
Not at all.
And that really hurt the brand. That really, at this point, for a while, I was sick of. Me and you in those early pipeline days, once a week, we were talking about a Fantastic Four casting once a week, and I was tired.
Yeah.
I was sick of talking about Fantastic Four with no proof of concept. I was done with it.
And by the way, they're repeating the cycle with X-Men right now, is where you just see a new X-Men rumor every other week. It's like, oh, Denzel Washington is going to be Magneto. Which I kind of like that one. But anyway, they're just random rumors all the time. And it just
some of it's valid. And then some of it's anyone, I could go on right now and be like, Taz is going to be Nightcrawler. And people be like, what? This is crazy.
Exactly. You just and think about it nowadays, it's probably super easy. Is you just go ask, Chat GPT and is like, hey, give me some fan castings for Professor X. And all right, let's, make an account. Let's make, make this look legitimate. Say my source is Trust Me Bro. Send it, send it over to some, leaker scooper accounts, get some traction on it. And then boom, it's your next big rumor. And the internet's talking about, Danny DeVito playing Professor X for the next week. So
I 100% agree. I don't think anything revolving around X-Men right now is true, because why would they be casting them this early? There's not a script ready. There's nothing in place right now.
There's no reason to cast them until post Secret Wars, because we've got the old Fox X-Men back.
Yeah.
The
only way there is a chance of X-Men casting if maybe there's a cast revealed at the end of Secret Wars. Maybe. But even then, filming for that movie won't happen for a while, right? Because they're doing Doomsday right now.
Yeah, well, my question is, are they doing the same thing that they did with Infinity War and Endgame? Are they filming Doomsday and then immediately after going right into filming Secret Wars? Or are they going to be two separate productions?
That's
because
what
they
I
do
thought
only come
originally.
Because it's only a year separating them release-wise, so I would have to assume they'd have to film them fairly close together. But now that dates have shifted, we've still got to have Spider-Man come out in between them, and all, so actors are going to be spread out all over the place.
I'd be curious to see how much of the cast changes in between those movies, right? Because with Endgame, I feel like it was a much simpler thing of just because it was relatively the same cast, right? The same cast that was in Infinity War was in Endgame, just less of them.
And they streamlined that cast, and they could, very easily justify streamlining it.
Right. Whereas Secret Wars, it might still be the same cast, but I got a feeling they might try and bring up on a bunch of the characters that weren't in Doomsday. It's bringing in a lot of these faces that were not included in this lineup. Let me get through a couple of these comments here really quickly. Phil says, it's not that they couldn't use Green Lanterns. The studio did not know how to use Green Lanterns because Warner Brothers has no clue what they're doing. 100%.
Valid.
Yeah, there was a lot going on around that time. I wouldn't trust him to show run, but I would trust him to hype me for it. That's fair. Yeah, no. I think he just wasn't a good showrunner. I think he was a decent writer sometimes, but I don't think he should have been the one calling all the shots, being the head of everything, for sure.
Yeah.
Difference is, I feel like Gunn has every right to lie when it comes to leaks. People think it's wrong for him to do so, but I heavily disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with CEO stuff lying to us if it's for our good, if it is
right, if it's part of the promotion. But when you go the Eric Wallace route of lying about something intentionally, or like intentionally to build hype, not necessarily lying to like feed into a leak or a rumor to
Hmm.
throw you off. But when you do that to artificially build hype, that is the issue.
Yeah, I'm someone, and it was pretty controversial when they would do it. They don't do it as much now, but like I kind of liked when they filmed fake shit in trailers and put it in there to throw us
Yeah.
off. Like I loved. Obviously, I didn't like what they did with Hulk in Infinity War and Endgame, but like I
Mhm.
love that shot where it's like Hulk in Wakanda, like with Captain America and Falcon and stuff. It's like, oh, holy shit, and it's like, okay, that was to
Yeah.
throw us off of like
Well,
the
didn't
plot of the
they
movie.
do something like that for Thunderbolts? Like they put Taskmaster in scenes that she wasn't in later in
Did
the
they?
movie in the trailer. I thought I saw something about that, like that
I
she like popped up in like a lineup, like in a trailer, but wasn't there in the actual movie because
I
obvious
don't
reasons.
I don't think so, because like a big conversation, and we will get to our main topics, guys. Because like a big topic of conversation was that she wasn't in the trailers, that she was missing, and
Mm.
people were like, "Oh, she's clearly dead." And I don't know though, because like they had the whole Morbius situation, I think changed the game, right? Because someone sued Sony, or at least tried to
Oh,
sue
for like
Sony
false advertisement.
false advertising. And I feel like maybe after that they're like, okay, cut that out. Let's just show what's in the
Yeah.
trailer, and that's a little disappointing to me.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
feel
maybe I'm
like
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
trailers are made to build hype, and there are a lot of things that are filmed specifically for trailers.
Hmm.
You don't necessarily have to have everything that shows up in the trailer show up in the movie. Things hit the cutting room floor all the time.
Hmm.
Trailers are cut specifically to build hype. I mean, think about one of the biggest examples I can think of is how different Rogue One ended up being from the trailers, and that was obviously because there was a big directorial shift, in the middle of that production as well. But think about how different the actual Rogue One film looks from those original trailers that showed up, or that came out, and all that stuff that hit the cutting room floor again because they had to reshoot a big chunk of that movie. But I think it is interesting though. Like I don't like being misled in a trailer, but I do also like not knowing a ton about the actual movie going into
Right.
it. So there's a healthy balance of the two of them, of hyping you up enough, teasing enough, but also leaving enough up to theory and speculation.
Yeah, and that's fair. And like I think with like the whole Michael Keaton Morbius thing, like I think that's valid because they were just lying. Like they were putting shit in like in that trailer that just wasn't there. Like they were leading you along to think Spider-Man was going to be an element of that movie. And they kept, they had the like Insomniac poster for
Yeah, they did.
Peter and a
That
lot of
was
that stuff,
so
and it's like
random.
you come out of that, it's like, so that was all bullshit. That was complete BS. And
Yeah.
like I do wonder if there was any version of that movie that was almost that, or like they were trying to, maybe Peter was supposed to show up and then it was cut, or they couldn't get it or something. But like that is the version where it's like, okay, I can understand there being a lawsuit because you did kind of
Yeah.
lie to people in that regard.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hop into kind of our main stuff of the week.
Okay.
Do you want to start with my thoughts on Doctor Who, or do you want to start? I guess my thoughts on Dexter. I guess they're both just kind of me.
Yeah.
But which one would you like to start with?
Let's do a fun little sandwich here. So start with Doctor Who, then we'll go into
Okay.
Dexter, and then we'll go into the
Last of Us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last of Us. I'll try and keep this one brief as I always do, but
Yeah.
this was the penultimate episode of the season. This was part 1 of the season 2 finale. And I will say at kind of the start, like, bear with me on this one too, because it's like, it is a lot of stuff that I'm kind of sitting here with and being like, huh, interesting. Taz, this was a pretty fun episode. This was
Okay.
a kind of like a WandaVision kind of episode.
Ooh, I
This
think I
was
did see you post something about that.
it felt very WandaVision. This was a an episode that kind of found our characters in almost this fake reality, this like 60s, 70s aesthetic where a lot of the kind of negative motifs of the time was very prevalent,
Okay.
women being the like stay-at-home moms, and their only responsibility is to like be in the be in the household and like raise kids, and and there's like a lot of these like aesthetics happening throughout the episode, and a lot of that is kind of it is revealed that I think I was telling you about the episode a couple weeks back where it was the guy that is kind of this like bigot kind of character who's just kind of like had gaslit one of the characters on the show, and it's like he created this world, this wish world in the episode. And here's what I'll say: I think everything revolving around this episode I really really loved. I thought it was a really really fun aesthetic, to the point I kind of wish we could have lived in this little world a little bit longer, because it was a very shitty world to live in, obviously, but it is a fun MacGuffin to kind of live in for the episode. And it's very fun to see in this little world, the Doctor and his companion are married in this world, and they have a kid, and it's very weird. He's trying to, they have no memories of their outward selves, and it's like the whole episode, it's very WandaVision, where they're like, something's not right. They're like doubting themselves. They're like, this isn't right. And every time they start to doubt, a like cup will fall through a like table to be like, oh, I have to clean this up, to distract them from trying to figure this whole thing out. And it's all kind of connected to like the main villains and the main themes of the season and what they've been going on. And here's what I'll say, and to kind of go into a conversation I was having last week about Classic Who, and things that they were bringing in, and stuff I didn't quite understand because I am a newer fan. They don't do a lot to explain the character that was introduced last week. The Ronnie was this character that I was really excited to I was excited this week. I was like, okay, I'm excited for them to introduce this character to me. And I think if I didn't do my own research outside of the show, I simply would not care about this character. Like, I think my only care of this character is like, oh, I heard really cool things that they've done with this character outside of the show, and that's interesting stuff, and I'm excited to see where they are going with that. And obviously that's a big element of this week's episode. And at the end of the episode, they tease another one, Taz, another Classic Who, character, which is like another Time Lord-esque character.
Is it David Tennant?
It is not David Tennant. That would be awesome. Omega, which I had done research of my own on this character, and he sounds awesome. He's like the creator of these Time Lords. He's the one that like set all this stuff in motion. He created this time travel for them, and pretty much what happened, he got like lost to time, and people forgot about him, and he's angry that everyone forgot about what he did for them, and he's stuck in this little area, and it's like, that sounds awesome. But I'm also like set in a place of like, are they going to really explain that next week? Because like the first article when like that happened, I like looked up, and like the first article was like, another Classic Q villain comes back after like 46 years. I was like, holy shit, that's a long time ago. Not a lot of people know what that is. So I'm really enjoying this season and this back half. I think these episodes are really, really fun. But I'm also like, I feel like you are isolating a portion of your audience a little bit.
Yeah. And I guess leaning into nostalgia a lot, and nostalgia for something that it's not like it just happened 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, but like 30, 40 years ago. Like, you know, most of these people that probably watched the show then either, you know, don't watch it anymore because they've not necessarily outgrown it, but just, you know, okay, that was a show that I watched 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And have no interest now. Or, you know, you've got, you know, I guess your generation of viewers in there that now have to go do this external research to figure out who these people are, who these characters are, what their importance is to actually enjoy and understand the story that's being told. And I'm actually curious, what does the what does the creative team look like? Are these people who are making the show people who grew up watching the
Right.
original and that's why they're leaning into this much nostalgia? Or alternatively, did they just kind of say, okay, what did people enjoy back in the day of the show? Let's pull those elements in there.
Right.
What is the perspective that they're coming from?
And like I'm not against, and I will read all these comments here in just a second, guys. I'm already seeing a lot of things I want to touch on here. Um, I'm okay with them bringing them in as long as they explain who they are and
Yeah.
reintroduce them in a way that makes sense. And like there's, in the episode, like Ronnie is like doing her evil plan, and like you show flashes of like this character from the past. It's like, cool. Don't know who that is. I don't know what those clips mean. Like you haven't told me the context, and they just don't do a very good job at that, in my opinion, within this episode. And like I think it'd be a completely different story if we were just doing stuff from the last 13 15 seasons. I think that's fine. It's still relatively recent. To many people, this is just season 15 and not season 2, right? So that would be fine to me. But I am a little worried going into this final episode on what they're going to do.
Right.
Let
It's
me
like
read.
go. So it's basically like, okay, if they referenced Smallville stuff in the Arrowverse, like for the most part, people would understand that. But
Show
what
me
they're
who that
doing
version
is
of
more
Clark is. Yeah.
right. But more so, what it seems like they're doing is like, okay, let's reference like Christopher Reeve Superman stuff.
Sure.
In a current day thing, it's like, okay, probably very very few people actually either went back and watched that or watched that when it released and are currently watching the new thing.
Sure, especially when they pitched this for Disney Plus as a new start for the fans. I was pitched this as, you can start with this season 1 and you won't have to know anything from the past for the most part. Not to say that there wasn't, some things, but I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool.
But now
and
it seems like you need 50 years worth of Doctor Who lore.
yeah, like there's definitely a huge FOMO of it all. Like, man, I wish I got this like everyone else did.
Right.
And a little bit of that's probably like a little bit of a selfish thing, but like, I don't know. Let me read through some of these comments, see what people are saying. It was good, but the ending started doing way too much. Agreed. That third act of the episode, there was a lot of just them shouting out things and what's going on. And I was getting a little lost in the episode. I was like, wait, they're doing this to do this, to do this. Okay, I kind of get it, but it was a lot. And to the point, like even the character was like, yes, I'm not just doing this for the exposition. I was like, you kind of are though. Like there's a lot of that going on. It leans into the themes of fascism, then leads into sexuality and ableism. I will say I did really like the ableism parts of the episode. Obviously not ableism. I don't like ableism, obviously. But like I liked In This World has what they had done where it's like the people with physical visibilities, like people in wheelchairs or people who are blind, or some of the people that were more awake to this world because the person making this world didn't even keep them in mind when he created them. He's like in his mind, these people don't even exist. They weren't on his front of his mark, right? So they were more awakened. They were more able to kind of wake up from this kind of spell, which I thought was a really interesting part of the episode. And I think it showed the strengths of people within that community, and I thought that was kind of a fun direction to go. After last week's episode, I watched the episodes of Classic Who that had the Ronnie. Then this episode talks about this Omega guy, and I'm like, who's 100%. Like I've been thinking like, maybe I'll try and check out some of that classic stuff, but that's such a whirlpool, and like I'd argue that you shouldn't have to do that. I don't think you should have to comb through 50 years of history to understand that. It's like so much to hand. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to wrap next week up. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of concepts, especially for potentially getting a new doctor next week. We don't know for sure, but like if that's the case, there's a lot. I kind of hope they don't defeat these villains. Like if you have to defeat Ronnie and introduce Omega and maybe a new doctor and set all these arcs and get
like a lot.
Characters home, and it's like in 40 minutes, that's a lot. The design is cool. I just hope they don't do what they did. Fair. I'd be curious because I heard that was a character they made all CG, like CGI and special effects, where intentionally it was more costumes and stuff like that. And that's been an interesting thing to watch with, like, now they have Disney budget, and they've been doing a lot with it, and it's very cool. But sometimes I've seen in the fandom people are like, hey, I'd like a more simple design than all special effects and stuff like that. My worry is Omega is RTDs will make him a god, when the whole point of the character is that he's stuck with delusions of believing he should have been a god. Yeah, I was watching a video about that, and I was like, yeah, that's fair. That is valid. I'd be curious to see what they're going to do there. It's the same creative team from the Tenet era, which is the Stranger Things. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm wondering. I said Stranger Things. I'm sorry. Strangest Thing.
Yeah.
I'd be interested, because yeah, that is my favorite era of Doctor Who so far, is like the Tennant era, and Matt Smith is also really, really good right now where I'm currently at. But I'm liking it. Like I think these have been, especially this season, have been a very strong episode, but very strong episodes with strange decisions mixed within them, I guess would be my description of this season. There was always way too many flashbacks this episode. Like, yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, like, I feel like there's a lot more I could dive into. Like, there's the Poppy stuff. I'm curious to see how they kind of wrap that up. There's a lot of things, but I'm mostly just kind of like waiting to see how they wrap it all up next week, and what direction we go in, and can they wrap it up all well and in a neat little bow, or will there be things coming out of it that's like, I wish they would have done this, or this was messy, and we'll see. I mean, next week's episode, I know they're showing in like some cinemas, and they seem to be being very cautious with how this episode is coming out. So big stuff is happening. I know they maybe teased Gallifrey coming back, which I know they've done that in the past, so I don't know that stuff. So maybe, I might be a little lost in that area. Taz, that would be the equivalent of if Krypton came back after years of Superman being on Earth. Like, that would be that equivalent of, like, kind of like what Zod is trying to do at the end of, like, Man of Steel, where it's like, I'm going to bring back Krypton on Earth kind of thing, but, like, bring back that group of people kind of thing. That'd be very interesting. All right. Let's talk about some Dexter. And you might be wondering, hey, Dexter ended like 15 years ago. Why are you talking about Dexter? Because I'm starting to go through it for the first time. And I thought for the next couple of weeks, we can do our road to Dexter Resurrection. Is that
Resurrection, yes.
Dexter Resurrection. And I'm really going to try and binge. I know it's leaving Netflix. It was leaving June 20th, right?
Yeah. And July 11th is when Resurrection starts.
So I have 3 weeks.
Basically
to watch it.
6 days shy of a month to finish the next 7 seasons. Mm-hmm. Plus you've got two other seasons to watch. Yeah, 2 spinoffs.
Two spinoffs.
But they're both only 10 episodes instead of 12.
Sure. I mean, give me your thoughts on season 1, Taz, and then I'll I'll find my way into the conversation.
Okay. Season 1 is the best season, in my opinion. You don't have the added context of the rest of the show, but I think looking in retrospect, season 1 is still my favorite season because of a couple of factors. I think, firstly, it is the only season that really does that mystery very well. Like, throughout season 1, you are unraveling the mystery at the same time that Dexter is unraveling that mystery.
Right.
Like, you are figuring out who the ice truck killer is at the same exact time. There's no, okay, the audience knows, but Dexter doesn't know, but the Miami Metro doesn't know, this kind of thing. Nobody knows until everybody knows, if that makes sense. And so you're able to kind of speculate and say, oh, I think this guy did it, or I think they did it, this sort of thing. I do really like that element. And I also love the fact that we're kind of thrown into an already established world, an already existing world.
Yeah.
Without the added context of original sin, when this came out, this was all we had, or this was all you had, right? So you get to jump into a already established world. Dexter's a blood spatter analyst by day, serial killer by night, but he's not just a serial killer. He is more so a vigilante. He kills people who fit his code. His code was created by his adoptive father, Harry, who shows up in flashbacks and things like that in this first season, which I think were great. So it's just, season 1 is so good, man. And again, I think Brian, his brother, is the best villain out of the entire season as well. There's, I think, one other villain that you might enjoy more. And I think that is usually what most people, it's between these two.
Right.
And I won't say who, but it's between those two. But I think I prefer Brian, or I prefer Biney more.
I was wondering about that, because as like the back half of the season is happening, I was like, he's going to be hard to beat. He's going to be a hard villain to, just because there is that personal connection to. It's like
exactly.
It's like Malcolm and Slade is such hard villains to be for Arrow, because they have such a deep connection to Oliver. And to the point when the season ends, I was kind of sad because I didn't want them to kill him off, because I felt like we had just tapped the surface. I kind of wanted Dexter to have his like reverse Flash moment, because that's really what it is. It really is just like reverse Flash-esque villain.
I will say if Brian Moser is his reverse Flash, Dexter still is yet to meet Zoom.
Interesting.
So
yeah, like it is so interesting, and I think I think Dexter having that code is so much more interesting than even a character like Joe, which we had just met, and
who has
no code, really, right?
Yeah,
like I feel like Joe doesn't give a shit. Like, he pretends to give a shit, but he does whatever, whenever he wants, without the consequences of anything. And I think it's really interesting watching a character do bad things, but justify it in a way that makes me also want to justify it, to the point where I'm like, he does, right? Like, I am with him, like, yeah, he should probably be taken down, but a lot of the times I'm like, but hold on, let's see him do his work. Let's see him do this thing. And like, to the point, like I actually was making a lot of comparisons to Arrow in this, first season. I was like, Dexter season 1 and Oliver Queen season 1 aren't that far off, right? Like they have, like, they kill and they do it in a way that justify their merits of like, yes. I killed this guy, but he freaking kidnapped 20 kids, and we're all like, as an audience, like, yeah, hell yeah, but like, take this guy freaking down. And that's very interesting. And like,
and he doesn't do anything hastily either. He's got a process. Right. Like, he's got to vet the person. He's got to be 100% certain that the person he's going up against or going after deserves to die, basically, or as well, that they are destined to do what they did again. He has to make sure that they fit that criteria before he goes into action, before he actually goes through with the kill. And I love the setup, and I love, again, how they just throw you into it. The first episode starts with the infamous "Tonight's the night." We see him, go through that process at somebody he's already vetted. He puts them on the table. He tells them and shows them, look at what you've done. And then it is the start of just incredible stuff here. And when I went through and watched season 1 too, after like getting all of the, the TikTok memes and stuff like that, right? Like, there's a lot of really good quotable stuff in here. This is where you get La Pasión. This is where you get surprise. Like, this is where you get all...
Surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah. Like, this is where you get all of that stuff. Season 1 is packed. And again, I think it is the most, in a lot of ways, I think it's one of the most rewatchable seasons as well. Just because it's so great to see how this story started.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be interesting for you to see how it your opinion might evolve on this season as you get further and further throughout the show and see where you started versus where you end off. And again, I'm not trying to get into too much detail about anything in future seasons. Like, I'm being very vague intentionally, and the more you get through it, the more I'll be able to say about things. But if you enjoyed season 1, I think you're gonna love the rest of the show. I really do. I think you're in for a treat as far as the journey goes. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think in a lot of ways too it's funny. I just watched a video this past weekend that somebody did, like doing a whole retrospective on the Dexter series, and he said something very interesting, that it was a show on his radar for a very long time, but he didn't get around to watching it until then. And he said that shows come into your life at a very particular time. Like, you watch shows when you're meant to watch them or when you need to watch them. And I think when I watched Dexter, it was a very important time for me to be watching that show. It sounds so ridiculous, but I connected with it on a very personal level because of what was going on at that time. And I think, I hope that you find that same sort of connection.
No, like, I think, like, already I'm really enjoying it. I think mainly because I feel like it's been a while since I watched, like, and I don't like using this word, but like a real TV show, like a very it's not classic, but like a classic TV show.
I know exactly what you mean.
This show that we do is so geared towards, and honestly, going forward, I like the idea of doing more of these Dexters, and like more of these like retrospective shows and stuff like that. I really like the idea. But like, it's all like new stuff and new shows that are coming out. And this just feels so classic. I was instantly taken back to my, like, my middle school, high school days of watching through like the Arrowverse shows and Once Upon a Time and The 100 and these classic TV shows. These, this is still like a 12 episode, like, what is it, Showtime? Like, still is not like even
it's high production, and you can tell that they can do and say and show a lot. Like, honestly, there's no holding back.
This should probably be like the golden standard, honestly, in terms of how you make shows, because it's not a 22 episode season. It's not a hugely long show, but it's has a high production value for what, 2005, is it?
2005, 2006, yeah.
Like, it looks really, really good. It's not too crazy long. It still fits into that like streaming, formula, but I also imagine it's not too expensive. Like, it's not like a crazy, whatever, because it's a crime show, right?
There's no CGI. Like, I think probably the most expensive thing, I believe the first season was actually filmed in Miami, and then I think season 2 onwards they filmed it in LA, I believe, and just used Miami as the for establishing shots and stuff like that. But I think it was, I could be wrong.
That would kind of make sense, because just in those first 2 episodes, there is a slightly different vibe. Not by much, but there is something that's like, this seems slightly different, which
like, there were certain things that they dropped in that first episode to the second episode, or things that they dropped very early on in the show. That,
I think Maria was one of the biggest ones, because I don't know if this goes into spoilers, but like the pilots, her just like snipping over Dexter, and like,
that was something that they dropped very, very quickly. Yeah.
And like by episode 2, I'm like, I instantly like you way more. You're such a more capable and interesting character.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you could tell that they're trying little things, like putting out feelers for like what worked, what didn't, but
and that's the importance of a pilot, and that's the importance of like letting your writers be able to evolve as you go along. To be like, that doesn't work, let's 100%. Fix it. Let 100%. Us transition. I'm just going through a cast here really, really quickly. Do you have a favorite character, at least in this like first season, that you would say, yes, that's my favorite?
I've got to say Brian. I've got to say.
Okay, interesting.
If I can't say Dexter, I will say Brian is my favorite character in that first season. I think throughout the whole show, that is certainly a different answer.
Interesting.
And I have quite a few favorite characters, a few
Okay.
different answers, but again, I won't really say anything too because then that will kind of spoil some stuff. So, season 1,
Sure.
Brian Moser, Ice Truck Killer, favorites character in the season.
Yeah, I'm like looking through the cast. Like, it's weird. I don't know if you have this saying. It's probably just like a personal thing.
Yeah.
The like main character is almost never my favorite character, just because in my mind that's like a given. It's
right.
Like,
Is I always am like, all right, it can't be the main character.
besides the main title character.
Yes,
who's your
exactly.
favorite
Besides
after that?
Dexter, who is your favorite character?
I think right now Deb for me.
Okay.
I'm really enjoying her and her journey.
Good choice.
I think she's been really fun. I think she's almost like the heart of the show. I almost think like Dexter is almost a slightly more unlikable character without her. Her and also, what is it, Rita, I think bring
Rita.
out the like heart of him too.
Yes.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
he's just this freaking boring ass character if it wasn't the characters that bring out the positive out of him.
Yes.
So I think those characters are really fun. Her journey, I'm excited to see Deb's development through the show, what I assume will be development, because this is definitely her season of like, well, I need someone, I need to just fall in love quickly, which makes her vulnerable to what happens. And I'm excited to see her journey, and even just her journey through season 1 of being the one that no one could rely on or trust or just couldn't take seriously, to like by the end when everyone's like, even to like episode 2 of this or episode 1 of season 2, where she comes in, like everyone's happy that she's here and alive and back in the whatever. It's like, oh, okay, it's cool seeing that.
Yes,
that journey.
Yes.
Getting
She has a
her.
very, very good arc for sure.
Hell yeah. I liked Angel too. I like how flawed of a character he is so far. I always like when your first
Mr. La
season.
Passion.
Yeah, he's fun. I like the like. Well, he's kind of an asshole in a way because he cheated on his wife and he did all these things, and it's cool to see him already try and grow, or not necessarily grow, but like grieve over what's happening. And I think that's a very good lesson in TV shows. I always like when characters do something and that has lasting consequences. Like at this point in the show, he doesn't get back with his wife, right? So he's like, okay, this happened. I got to deal with those consequences, and that's been fun to see. You mentioned Harry. I loved Harry. I'm happy with how much flashbacks we got of him, because I assumed at first it was just going to be like episode 1 or episode 2 like every once in a while, but like most episodes in season 1 had him in it with the flashbacks, which was very fun. Maybe I just like it because I like him from Black Lightning. I don't know if that's the only reason, but
I will say this is not really a spoiler, but he's always present in one form or another.
Go.
He's always present in one form or another, and if you've seen the Resurrection cast, he's back in Resurrection too.
Is he? Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, which was a big thing.
I'm going through this cast. Who else? I mean, Rita also, I think is very interesting. I've liked that journey. Like I started episode 1 being very pissed off at Dexter because I was like, oh, you're just using him. But I do like, it's not fake like I thought it was going to be, right? I thought it was like, oh, he is just using her to act normal, because the whole flashback stuff, like you have to have a girl,
right? You have to have a cover. You have to have a cover life. But when he's with Rita and with the kids, he is more himself than any other time in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, he's pretending, but that pretending
grew into something
shifts
real.
Into him kind of letting his guard down and being a real person, or at least trying to be. And the only other time you see that is when he has a victim on his table. That's the only other time he actually gets to truly be himself.
Right. And it is interesting because you probably can't answer this kind of stuff, but like, it is interesting to be like, can he love that life just as much if he puts enough effort in and he tries enough? Because it seems like he's almost there very similar times in season 1. I liked the ex-husband stuff. Or I didn't like him. Obviously, he's a terrible individual, right? But I love that actor. He's in Lost.
What was he in? Yeah. Okay. Oh, Supernatural is what he was in.
He plays Lucifer.
Oh, wait, really?
He does, yeah.
Oh,
and he's
interesting.
Really, really good. And he plays the main villain in Lost as well.
Okay.
So he's kind of always like a shitty guy. Like, it kind of sucks.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Supernatural is on the list. It's not
Oh,
necessarily
God.
written down on the list, but that is a show that my brother keeps telling me to watch.
Maybe
And
I've
he's
seen...
been making his way through that show for like the last year. So,
Oh, I've been slowly making my way since like 7th grade, and I'm still only because I go through phases of binging it, and then it's like it's gone. I just it's so long. I'm like 8 seasons in, and I'm only halfway through. At this rate, I just have to start over.
Yeah, I've seen maybe like the first episode and then just like random clips that have been posted. So like I know a bit about the show, but
those first 5 seasons are so good.
Really?
Are so good. If you stopped at season 5, to me it would be an S tier show.
Really?
It is so good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just excited to see Misha Collins.
Oh, that whole cast is brilliant.
Yeah.
Jensen and Jared. They're so good.
Oh yeah.
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 But yeah, no, like I loved season 1. I had a blast with it. I'm looking at some of this cast list. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be looking at this cast.
Yeah,
list.
don't scroll too far down. Don't scroll too far down. Let's leave it at that. Don't look at episode counts or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go through some of Maddie's comments here really quickly. Season 1 has the best mystery. Season 2 has the most hype. Season 4 is just the best of the show. Would you agree with any of those statements there?
I don't know if I can really say much on that. But I agree with the season 1 having the best mystery.
Yeah.
And I see why you say that season 4 is the best of the show.
Okay.
And I will leave it at that.
Okay. I'm excited. Next week I'm hoping to like get through 2 and 3, see what's in store there, talk about it next week.
Yeah.
That's actually very well put, Taz. I don't know into which part, but it was all
thank you.
all very well. I went through phases of watching Smallville. I got up to season 9 after binging lots of it. Now it's been years and I still haven't finished. Smallville's a journey. Smallville's a fun journey.
Still gonna watch that too.
Oh wow. Okay. And I watched most of it after Crisis, like after the Tom Welling cameo. But I binged it so fast it all blends to me. It's all like one large blah of season.
Yeah.
But it's a fun journey. It's you know, a thing of its time for sure.
I've listened to more podcast episodes of Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling talk. Yeah, I've watched more episodes of them talking about the show than actual episodes of the show, which is interesting. Yeah.
Did you see that Michael Rosenbaum's been getting the Superman Lois cast on his?
Yes,
his other show?
I have them saved to my watch later, and I want to watch them. But I just haven't had the time to sit down and listen to them yet.
I haven't either. But the one thing, I guess, it's spoilers for like the interview. But the one thing that Tyler was saying, yeah, spoiler alert. But like the one thing that Tyler had said is that they wanted to kill off Superman after Elseworlds.
I did see that. Yeah.
They were very adamant of like similar to what they did with Deathstroke and the Suicide Squad and Amanda Waller. They want to be like, you're done.
You're
cut off.
You gotta get him out.
Can you imagine?
But he was so popular that they were. Well, I mean, even so, they would have just started Superman and Lois as okay, it's a different Earth right from the rip.
Sure, but I bet that wouldn't have happened if they said...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No
if
Superman,
they were like, all right, no
right?
more Superman. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was still shocked that, like, they went from, okay, you can use him for 2 episodes at the beginning of what was it, Supergirl Season 2. Mm-hmm. And then he came back for the finale or the penultimate episode, I can't remember, but, like, later on in that season, yeah.
And then
they're like, okay, you can use him in a crossover. You can use him in another crossover. Oh, no, you know what? He's so popular, just give him his own show.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what time was that? Was that 2020, right? 2019,
yeah.
2020?
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy to me too. Like, hold that thought for a second. Is going back to what we were talking about with Diggle and Green Lantern and stuff. The fact that they allowed the CW to use Superman and give him a whole show,
right, is
crazy to me that they couldn't at least just let Diggle wear a Green Lantern ring.
Right. And like again, like I think early on maybe that they were like I think they were trying to actually build up to it. Like I think that they had genuine plans of doing so, but I think at a certain point they realized, oh, it's too late. We've lost that opportunity. But
Yeah.
like, you do bring up a good question. Like, if
You
the
can use
CW was
the
still
guy.
around,
No, I'm like, if you can use the guy, like Superman is like
right.
Mr. DC superhero. Like, why
Oh
can't
no,
you
for
use
sure.
any? The only person that outranks Superman is Batman.
Is Batman. And Batman, they're like, no.
And we even got a Bruce Wayne.
Absolutely
We
not.
got Bruce Wayne in Batwoman, and for like 0.25 seconds in Gotham Knights.
That's arguably worse. I think what they did, I think it would look better on them to do like a full Batman show or a full Batman appearance, because both of those appearances, Batman looks bad. He like
Yes.
It's not a good look for both of them are either evil or incompetent, and they both die. That isn't a good look.
Yeah, and you got him Kevin Conroy, Batman, finally as well during Crisis, but he did die. But he was evil and he died.
Titans is the same thing. He died in his first appearance, and then he comes back. He's a killer. He's a terrible Batman. He's a villain. It's like
don't remind me about Titans.
It's like
Batman.
Instead of doubling down and giving us a great adaptation, like you did with your Superman Lois's, and even Gotham is kind of the same thing. He didn't look great in Gotham either. It's like, instead of letting them do it properly, they work their way in and do a bad version of these characters instead, which makes the brand look worse than it already. It's
diluting
weird.
The brand, as they say.
100%.
Yeah. By the way, be on the lookout for more recognizable actors throughout Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep your eyes open, and I want you to report back when you see somebody that you know.
Gotcha. Freaking Sam Witwer, by the way. That was such a fucking jump scare. Oh my gosh. Because it happened. I was like, that looks like Sam Witwer. That's crazy. And then I didn't think anything about it because it wasn't him. I was like, no, it's not him.
Yeah.
And then, like, later on, as he kept appearing more, I was like, that's Sam Witwer with a short-ass haircut and, like, 20 years earlier. Holy shit.
Yep.
He is such a good actor.
He is.
Riverdale star Sam Witwer.
One of the very few actors that is equally as good of a live-action actor as a voice actor.
He is so good.
Yeah. Like, he has done TV, movies, games, animation, big time, like, Star Wars lore nerd. Like, I want to be Sam Witwer when I grow up. How about that?
He is so sick. He is so awesome. I hope he gets the live action Star Wars treatment. As someone who doesn't even know his Maul yet, I don't know what that character's really up to, or maybe a little bit I have, but like, I want him to have that big screen like status.
I want
deserves that.
Yeah, he needs to, like, even if it's so briefly, just appear in live action as Starkiller once. Like, I just
No, he is even when it's a shitty thing, like, even like Riverdale, right? Season 4. That
oh
season
my gosh,
is
yeah, you're right.
Crazy. But his performance is great.
It's great.
He is fantastic. He jumps out the freaking window. I don't know if you've seen that clip where he's...
Yes, I did. No, I was watching during... I was watching then. Okay. Yeah, I was watching it then. Trust me, again, the only Riverdale I haven't seen is, like, maybe the last 5 episodes of the show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. But I think we're going to transition to what I think is our last show here. And
the last show?
The Last of Us? The last of Us for a little while. That is
the last of Us for like the last the last of Us for the last, I don't know, like 2-3 years probably.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts because I just watched it a couple hours ago, so it's still pretty fresh in my mind. I haven't heard a lot of other opinions on it. I still haven't finished the game. I wanted to finish up to this point in the game, and I didn't. I just hadn't found time. But I feel like I remember a lot of this stuff, at least the like general gist of what happened in the games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You told me you weren't the biggest fan of this episode, right?
Yeah. And the more that it's sat, the more I've been nitpicking it, oddly enough. But I will let's again compliment Sandwich here. let's start with some positives. At number one, Shimmer lives. So that is, that's
Yes.
all I needed. It avoids a bad score just because of that. 10 out of 10 just for the fact that Shimmer lives.
I wonder why. I am very curious about that. Like, I wonder if HBO had like a no animal cruelty rule, because there's also one of the dogs that gets brutally murdered in the game. That
I actually just saw that clip. Somebody posted, and I was like, "Oh, interesting." But isn't that more so part of Abby's story?
I don't remember. Like, I know there's several parts of the game where like they send their attack dogs after you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to kill them, but it's going to be a pain in the butt if you don't. It's going to be really hard because they will sniff you out. Like, you can sneak around, but those dogs are still going to find you, so you still kind of have to take them out. It kind of forces you to a certain point. So it's interesting that they were like, we can bash someone's head in, we can torture someone's guts can slide out of their body, but no animal cruelty. And honestly, I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. Yes. No horses nor dogs were harmed in the making of this.
I just
TV
hope he doesn't
show.
starve. I hope Shimmer doesn't starve.
Well, I mean, Jesse said that. Oh, in case you care, Shimmer's fine. By the way.
Yeah.
So.
But for how long?
I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad Shimmer's okay. But the episode itself stressed me the heck out, dude. Like, it really did. It number one made me want to go actually play the game. Number two, it hit all the points that I didn't want it to hit. As far as it made this season feel like the first half of a story, or really, now that we've learned, the first third of a story. So it doesn't necessarily even stand on its own. Like, yes, we kind of had that idea going into it. Like, we were speculating on it throughout the whole season. It's okay, the more we progress through season 2, the less we heard and saw of Abby, the more focus it was just on Ellie's journey. Seattle days 1 through 3, cool, that's just like they do it in the games, as far as I understand. You start with, the 3 days of Ellie going through things, then you swap gears and get Abby's side of the story, then you continue with the confrontation. And that seems like what they're going to do next season, and then in season 4, apparently, that has kind of sort of been confirmed as well. So I don't love when a story feels incomplete. Like, I think 7 episodes is a really weird choice, especially since last season was, 10?
I think it may have been 9.
I think, or maybe? 9 or 10. Yeah, last season felt like a full, complete story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. This season can be broken down into a few parts, right? So you have the kind of prelude, the calm before the storm with episode 1.
9.
Episode 2 is Joel's death, the catalyst for everything. Episode 3 is kind of the recovery, figure out how we move forward from here. Episodes 4 and 5 were Seattle days 1 and 2. Episode 6 was our big flashback episode, which, again, I still feel like it should have been kind of spread out throughout the season to give us an extra episode. But I see why they did it the way that they did. And then this final episode, day 3, felt so rushed and all over the place. It really did. Like, it was moving at a breakneck pace, and I think that is my biggest issue of the season. Like, the pacing just felt off. Like, I think if they went with the same pace that they did at the beginning of the season, I would have been okay with it, because they let the story sit and simmer. We got a whole episode of setting up why this season is going to be the way that it is. We got a whole episode focusing on, the death of Joel. We got a whole episode focusing on the fallout of the death of Joel. and then we crammed a whole day's worth of adventures into 3 50-minute episodes, which in some ways makes sense, but you can play the game for like probably 10 hours to get through those 3 days, right? Like the game is 30 hours long. So
I think that's also my biggest issue. I did love this season. I think this season is very close to being a perfect season for me. But there are nitpicks, and I do think it does rely in there. I think it does rely on the pacing of the season and how it's structured. And I don't even necessarily know how to fix it, because so much of that I don't think is easy to adapt in here, right? So much of the game is, and we've talked about this previously, rotting around, finding certain items, chilling out, and chilling out. And I think like it is hard to adapt that into live action, or, into a TV show formula without having filler, because a lot of that is quote unquote filler, right? At least that's how it would be perceived. So I think it's hard to, Ronan, if you want to link, let me know, buddy. I know your stream's about to start, so you don't have to, but I think it's like, I don't know how you fix that pacing problem necessarily.
Yeah, and two, so again, I've been watching this whole season with my dad, who we are both in the same boat as we've not played the games. We've seen clips. We've talked to my brother, who is the big Last of Us fan in the family. He's played both the games extensively. He knows all the lore, and we're being influenced by him in some ways, as he is more so a game purist as far as the story goes. However, what I kind of came to realize is, while the show is intended really to please the fans of the game, but also to bring in new fans that would never play it because it's a game. So you have to cater to both of those audiences very carefully. And I feel like, as an audience member that doesn't know the ins and outs of the games, I'm missing so much story on certain things, but not necessarily in a good way. Like, I know that the game plays into the mystery of certain things, and we kind of discussed this last episode, of, they gave us more of kind of Abby's story very, very early on to kind of set the stage with her and that sort of thing, where in the game that they leave it up to a mystery as far as why Abby's after Joel in the beginning until later on. Yet the only reason I know about that is because I've talked to people that have played the games, or I've gone and looked at kind of how the games go. But again, from this perspective of watching it, of watching it without having that background, I feel like I'm missing out on things. And then the other side of that equation is that people who have played the games, they're at a point where they're dissatisfied as well, because it's not necessarily following the game story as closely as they would have liked. And again, it's an adaptation. It's supposed to be different. It's supposed to tell the story in a new and unique way, take certain liberties, change certain things that the creatives didn't necessarily like when they made the game. But it feels like this odd tug of war where we stay very faithful to the games and the background and the backstory in certain aspects, and then in other parts, we change it completely. Like, looking at how Ellie acts in the game versus in the show are two complete, like, she could be a completely different character. From what I understand in the game, she's much more so, like, hell-bent on revenge, kind of very much so single-minded as far as I'm going after Abby, that sort of thing, versus now in the show, you get a lot more downtime. You have her kind of conflicted and not necessarily sure of why she's out there doing what she's doing. She's not as threatening, I feel like, either. And obviously that's a choice for the show, and they need to go in on that. But then you switch it up there, and then she becomes very menacing and very threatening and very much so like, I'll kill anybody who gets in my way sort of thing. But they just keep going back and forth with it, and I can't ever, I guess, sit with the decision that they've made, because it feels like they keep going back and forth on it, and it's just an odd spot. I feel like, give me some more perspective as far as from somebody who has played the games. Like, how does that feel for you?
I'm kind of split on it, because I really liked, and Ronan, I want to hear your perspective on this a little bit, who knows the games more than me.
Yeah.
But like, I've loved the more transitional journey, because I think you kind of start game 2 originally and she's already kind of that more darkened, that more edgy character. I've liked the journey of the season of them building up to that, to slowly seeing her up until last week's episode, where that moment where she's like, oh, this is the version of the game now. This is the version that we knew from the games, and we've seen that transformation. But I will say, I think this episode, just a little bit for me, does flip-flop a little bit in that characterization. It feels like she kind of goes back and forth a little bit, and I feel like maybe there could have been a smoother transition, but maybe it's just because we don't... I don't know, maybe it's just because we haven't seen this version of Ellie yet. Like, I had a friend that was kind of upset about the episode, because he said, well, I think Ellie is super unlikable and she's being very stupid this episode. I'm like, yeah, but I think that's the point. I think she is stupid this episode. She's making very stupid. She's not thinking with her head. She's thinking with her heart, not her head. She's making very stupid decisions. Ronan, someone who knows the character way better than me, who's played these games way more than me.
Yes, enlighten us,
How did
please.
this final episode work for you? Did you like what they did with Ellie this season?
Holy shit. There's that's a good question. First of all, can you guys hear me good? Are the earphones working?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's so interesting because I stand with Bella Ramsey performance as Ellie.
Yeah.
Though I understand the constructive critiques people have with this new interpretation of Ellie now that she's older now, and Bella has played older, even though she is 19, but they are 19. But what I find intriguing is that it's almost like an inverse from the game. In the game, because you are on the DualShock, you are on the stick. The passage through each of the first 3 days in Seattle, it's boiling. You're in there with Ellie in the mindset of just like, fuck yeah, we got to get these people out of the way. Damn them for what they did to Joel. And what's fascinating that I found very intriguing, which is what I love about adaptation, especially when one is good, and it doesn't, for me, hurt the previous iteration.
No,
it gives a new perspective. Ellie in the show is way more. I'm not trying to say Ashley's Ellie didn't care about Dina in the game. Of course she cared for her with all her breath. But I love how Ellie in the show takes at moments consideration. What are we doing? Should we do this? Especially after finding out that Dina's pregnant. Especially after the day and a half they spent together like that, it's just like, what are we doing? And so I appreciate that. Being like, whoa, this is different than the game, if you will. But then again, in the game, I was William Wallace, and Ellie was there with me. We were like, we're going to get the British. We're going to fuck them up and all that. And I took it as a silver lining that, like, I can enjoy 2 different iterations of the same characters and the same world that I love so much.
Agreed.
The perfect example I can only come up with right now is last week's episode, the porch scene. Very similar and yet different. I've told and if you guys have heard what we say, that like the game is more subtle in a lot of ways, especially with emotion, connectivity, gestures. The game has more quote unquote nuance. But with the show, you have that time to like lay it out all on the line, whether you want to express yourself or if you want to just swallow what your heart is saying or what your mind is saying, and you go with your guts. Like, we're saying about, the scene with the kid, with the certified kid. Like, yo, we just let that kid get take it away and I understood where Ellie was coming from the heart, but I love that my mindset of Jesse was just like, yo, Dina's pregnant. Tommy's out there. This is not our fucking war. And by the way, the kid you wanted to save, their folks were willing to like
kill you. Yeah.
Kill you and like, you know, fucking mutilate bodies, if you will. Like it's like, think about that for a sec. And so I like the dynamic between Jesse and Ellie because it was mind versus heart. And, you know, the need of the many outweighed the needs of the few or the one. But I like the episode. It's not, doesn't make right now. I've sat with it for 24 hours. It doesn't make my top 3 or 4 episodes of the season.
Yeah.
But, and again, it's a choice. 50 minutes. They covered a lot of time. You know, you took away gameplay still. It's a lot of like, okay, you know, the stakes of Jesse now being the dad. The fact that like you got to find the boat, and then the paths, you know, changing. Jesse's like, you know, I really hope you make it, and her going the route what she does with Mel and Owen. So I liked it, but I'm very curious to see as a whole it'll play out better once we finish season 3 and maybe even season 4 that happens to go that route.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit, Taz, because you talked about how you don't like the ending because you don't like open-ended stuff. And I was curious. I wouldn't
necessarily say open-ended stuff, but things that
incomplete.
End in a way that doesn't feel satisfying. Like, I feel like if we had gotten more leading up to this ending, I would have liked the end of the season more. Like, I don't have a problem with where we end the season, but just some of the journey in the middle doesn't sit right with me, like as far as how did we get from where we started to where we ended.
Right. I was curious about that because we had this conversation, was it 2023, with Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Like you sent me that message and like you said you wanted to do the stream. I was like, awesome. And then you sent it me like, yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I was like, what are you talking about? And then like once you broke that down for me, I was like, okay, I can understand that not sitting well with you. You not liking a part 1 to a 2-part story. But I also don't know how you, in this case, I don't know how you do it any other way, right?
I do.
Okay.
You make this all one season. This is the mid-season finale in my mind of season 2. You know what I mean? Is they now have this 4-season plan.
So you do a 22-episode season.
Not necessarily a 22-episode season.
Like
I think seasons
13?
2 and 3 should be 1 episode. So like that would be like a 12 to 15 episode season.
Okay.
Right? Is you somehow combine the Ellie story and the Abby story into one season, and then this can still be, because from what I understand is we're going to obviously come back to this confrontation by the end of Abby's story in season 3. So we get back to this same point at the end of this season, at the end of next season. So why not just combine everything into one season? I know that you're trying to cover up what happens.
Imagine they don't.
So again, this
canceled. Season 3 gets canceled. No season 4.
So in my mind, I like how yes, we spend our time with Ellie. We're gonna spend our time with Abby, but just I feel like I've seen half of a story here, and having to wait all that time to then play or to then see the other half of the story when you're playing the game. You play 7 to 10 hours as Ellie, then you go right into playing the 7 to 10 hours as Abby, and then you see how those stories converge. Where in here, it's a different medium, and I see how they experimented with telling the story in different ways, telling things out of order. We're going back to the beginning, we're going back to day 1, but we're seeing it from Abby's perspective starting next season. But wouldn't that have been a lot more impactful if, again, say maybe this is episode, or even say they somehow told this whole story in 5 episodes, right? This is the end of episode 5, and then we've got 5 more episodes to tell that story. In a lot of ways, I would much rather them combine it all into one season rather than give us a short season where it feels like not a lot happened, or like we rushed through it just to get to this end so that we can tell the other half of the story that we might rush through again to get to this end. and then finally give us that ending. And if it, in retrospect, all put together, all like 14 episodes, maybe if it's 777, if all 14 of these episodes together feel like a good cohesive product, then great. But we're not watching it as a binge. We're watching it as a weekly release. So it has to has to feel good in that weekly release schedule. But again, that's just my opinion. I felt very much so like I was moving at a breakneck pace this episode just to finish the story, where like we didn't go through things in a very natural way. Like I felt like they had an idea of where they wanted to end this season. They only had 7 episodes to do so, and I felt like we had a big pause, a big break from the action with last week's episode, given it was a flashback, and then we had to just rush to the finale, or rush through the finale.
I'm very conflicted, because it's like I do wish there was more time in this season, because I would agree. I think my biggest criticism is a lot of things move very, very fast. The pacing is very, very fast. I felt that especially this week, where things were like, whoa, we are moving light speed. But also it's like 2 episodes a day is maybe too much, like I don't know if there is enough to do 2 days per episode, right? So I don't know in that regard.
I don't think it's necessarily the amount of episodes. I think it's what you do with the episodes. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways, as fast as some of these things were, there were also a lot of things that oddly lingered for too long. Like, again, I'm sure it matters, but like, say in this finale, why did we have 5 minutes of Ellie going to Scarface Island only for kind of nothing to happen, and it just feel like an odd detour? Like, again, I know it matters, but it felt out of place to me. Like, I felt like, okay, we could have gotten more with Tommy, or we could have gotten more with Jesse, or we could have gotten a different interaction instead of that scene. Like, it felt like it was oddly placed, and like if somebody ripped it out of the episode, it wouldn't have changed where the episode ends. Like, that's one of those scenes where you're like, okay, maybe it's a deleted scene, you see it on the cutting room floor, you're like, oh, it's kind of cool, whatever, but it doesn't necessarily impact the overall story.
I was going to ask you this, like this to you, Ronan, because that's not in the game, right? That doesn't happen. That happens to another character, right?
Yeah, so I can confirm that doesn't happen to Ellie. Ellie does confront the Seraphites in different manners, but not strung up, Lynch style. But what I find fascinating is that they're leaning into that aspect of Ellie's perspective and then another character's perspective, and that kind of angle kind of bugged me in the game, because I'm like, oh, I know this story. I know you're the 2 sides of the same coin. Okay. So that's why I think they chose to do that. And what I'm doing the math right now. I'm like, there's a whole battle stuff that we didn't get from Ellie. That as a gamer, I was like, oh, that would have been fun just to see it and change whatnot. And what I found weird, and I appreciate Taz's perspective, because I have a friend on my podcast. I'm pretty sure he's going to bring it up when we do it in a little bit. Of like, we should have had more episodes, because even though we're getting the weekly release, which is the closest the non-gamers get to experiencing the time it took for us to play through it, you need to feel the mileage of being away from Jackson and what that means to be in Seattle, and especially what that does to these characters and whatnot. I think from the get-go, me and my crew were like, they're gonna end it with her saying, "And you wasted it." We from the get-go were like, that's if we're gonna get 7 episodes, if that's all we get, that's where we would end it. People might not dig it, but that's where we would get it. And I look at it now, and I'm like, that's one way to do it if you're gonna spend seasons trying to tell the story. But to Taz's perspective, I like that. You know what? They could have done 12, maybe 14 episodes season,
tell it
and
all.
then do first half Ellie, and then second half Abby, or mingle in between, because to this day I'll say it. I love Naughty Dog in that, but like the second half of part 2, god damn it, that pacing is fucking. Woo, it's a
Right.
commitment. And
Yeah.
what I found intriguing is that I was wondering if they were taking into consideration that, like, oh, is the season's ratings viewership going to go down once we shift perspectives? And
Yeah.
how does that
Well,
compare if we capture that into a whole season, and
It-
then you move into another season? Which I know you're going to ask me now, what does that mean for season 3? And it's just like, well, welcome to part 2. This is the fucking the stress I had to go through for that fucking
Yeah.
weekend
Yeah.
playing the game.
it is.
well,
Go ahead.
go
Chaz,
ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Like
Go ahead.
it is arguably one of the most ballsy thing I have ever seen in a TV show. It is one of the most risky things. Like me and Taz said early on, they're not going to do that. They're clearly going to do both the season and be this like fluid thing. But I respect it so much. Having
I do too.
and
And-
switch perspective. That I don't think that's ever really been done outside of like an anthology series.
Yeah.
To be like, we have your lead in season 1, we kill that guy off in season 2, we have a new lead, and at the end of season 2 we get a completely different lead for season 3, and then to eventually go back in season 4. That's never been done, not to my knowledge, not that I can think of. That is insane.
Yeah.
That felt like Spider-Verse moment of like, let's take it back one last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
to me, I felt the excitement as a fan of the franchise, but the dread of like, oh fuck, this we gotta get through this half. And to me it was the killer of hearing the beats of the drums, and then Seattle, day one.
Day 1.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
And I will say,
jokingly, I
like, the
told my
last,
friends, I might have to get drunk for season 3 just to get through it, because my perspective on stuff. But go ahead, Jess.
no, like those last 5 minutes of that episode were probably the strongest of the entire episode. I think, and in a weird way, I might be part of the unpopular opinion here, and I did see some people talking about this. There is a chance that season 3 ends up being better than season 2, and
Because it's a full journey.
and I might connect with Abby a lot more than I did with Ellie this season. Like, I feel like we didn't learn a ton, and we didn't grow or change a ton. Like, I feel like she still has that same moral dilemma that she had before she left Jackson. Like, I think it's still like okay, I'm going after these people. Should I really be going after them because I know what Joel did, but I need to get, avenge Joel's death, that sort of thing. And then she kind of backtracks on herself at the end, and she's like, oh, I know I killed your friends, but please don't kill my friends. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Like, again, from what I've seen, that is not at all how Game Ellie would have acted. She seemed to, again, be a one-woman army that did not take anything from anyone and would just obliterate anybody in her path and not apologize for it. And I think that was another big element that was missing. Like, she was training a lot at the beginning of the season and things like that, and she was relegated to running around scared with a handgun the whole time, when game version is, again, a Terminator, basically.
But I would argue she kind of got there. Like by the end of the season. Like, I think
Yeah.
this week felt to me like this was like the end of episode was it 5? The end of episode 5 with like what she did to is Nora, right?
With Nora.
What she did to
Yeah.
Nora. Like that to like last week where she's like inside the rain soaking wet to like what she did this week. I was like, to me, I was like, oh, that to me feels like Game Ellie a little bit.
I disagree.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. It's because, again, she, as silly as it sounds, she did accidentally kill these people. Like,
That's true.
She didn't go into it intending to, wherein I saw the clips in the games. I saw how it played out there, and she committed to the bit a lot more.
Sure,
She was
yeah.
a lot more intimidating. She's like, pulls out the map, show me where Abby is, that sort of thing. There's an actual little scuffle, a little fight versus like, okay, quick reaction, I'm gonna shoot and somehow get a collateral. Like that's not, that's a little ridiculous. And even when Abby comes into the theater, again, what I saw, game versus show. Show, she throws her gun away immediately, completely defenseless. In the show, she comes out, she's still, or in the game, sorry, she comes out, she's still holding the gun until she has to put it down. Like, it just, there's a slight little disconnect there. And I see the perspective, I see why they're doing that. I think they're trying to make Ellie a little bit more redeemable and likable in the show. Yeah. But it's, to me, making her seem like a little bit of a pushover in the show, right? Like she, it's weird. It's like at that point, how did she survive for 3 days in Seattle doing all this dumb stuff? Like got in a boat, hit the big wave, ended up on Scar Island. Like, how it seems like plot armor at that point versus, again, to me in the game, it seems a lot more believable. On a mission, one person firing squad, that sort of thing. It just it's interesting. And one other thing too that I could be wrong about, and Ronan, I want you to tell me if this is true or not, but
sure.
In the game, is it correct that when or after Ellie kills Abby's two friends there, looking for Abby with the map and everything, when Tommy comes out to rescue her, comfort her, whatever, in the game, do you slightly hear like a distorted version of Joel's voice and then it fades into Tommy's voice? Is that correct? I feel like I saw that potentially.
That's good. That's a good question.
And then that didn't happen in the show.
It might have. I have to go back. Listen, I've told you guys, I've only played the game 1.5 times, maybe 2 at most, because it really fucked me over. But like, yeah, and like, they might have done that. Yeah. But in order to, instead of the audio, what they did was that they made Tommy appear very much like Joel.
Right. Is like
when Joel helped her out in the game with David. Mm-hmm. I was like, Ellie, it's me. And then, even how he holded her was very much the way Joel holded her in season 1 and in the game. And he looked at what she did, and he looked at it, and it wasn't a killer. It was, in my opinion, his niece. So he's like, okay, no, forget it. Come on. And so they might have done the audio thing. I have to go back and look at it. But if they did, and they switched it up for this, it worked for me, because that look was Uncle Tommy. That wasn't a brother. That wasn't a father. That was Uncle Tommy doing his best to make sure, like, listen, it's not your fault, and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff of that they do, and they switch up. That, again, I think the story is playing out better for me in the show, but it's a different dynamic between what the characters are doing in the show in comparison to what the characters did in the game. And it's funky, man, because, how do I put it this way? It's a different dynamic when you're controlling a character and you feel that rage. And what I find fascinating from the show is that, like, Ellie keeps trying to be at moments Joel. And I find it very intriguing when she does get a moment of peace and thinks about him. There is the beauty, and then it just goes back to the dread of just killing and whatnot.
Right.
Which is why, in the game, she's more colder, in my opinion. But what I appreciate that the show has done up to that point, and they did it really, they started in season 1, is that Ellie is fascinated with the violence. Like, I'll never forget it. Season 1, when they go to find some stuff and Joel's loading up the truck with gas. She finds an infected. She takes out her switchblade knife and just pokes at him and just looks at the cut in one eye. And I was just like, I don't remember that from the game. That's intriguing as hell.
And there's that there's a scene
Go ahead.
last episode with like her with the like dreams and being obsessed with the moths and death, and it's like I think there's several layers to that. And some of it is what's going to happen with Joel, what's happened to her in the past. Like you just said, she's always been a little bit intrigued by that darker side, and I think Joel's death has given her permission to unlock that side of her. And I really liked her line this week with Dina, where it's like where she's like, I hated how much I hated how easy it was for me to go there and how much I didn't really regret doing it. Like I thought that stuff was fascinating.
Yeah, I think she's finally she got a moment to think of like what Joel tried teaching her and what Dina has now brought to her life of like so much beauty and like perspective of thinking about stuff before you actually act on it. And what happens now that after you act on it and you think about what you've done. Because probably you could say up to that point, Ellie had never thought about her actions past acting on them. And this was a watershed moment where she was like, fuck man, I made her talk. And not only did I end it, I left her there that way.
And in some ways too, I feel like leaving her there to get infected was worse than putting her out of her misery and killing her.
They took away the line away from the show, but in the game, she does say to Nora, "Tell me where she is, and I can make this quick, or I can make this so much worse."
Yeah.
I'll defend Ellie on this perspective. She told all of them who were there watching Abby doing what she did, and no one batted an eye except for Owen. And then even when Ellie was there, no one batted an eye.
Yeah.
She kept saying, "Just tell me where Abby is." And the first thing that comes to mind is Nora and Tatiana or Tati or whatever her name is did it brilliantly, where she says, "I'm sorry you had to watch that. No one should have gone through that." But then quickly goes back to that bitch got what it deserved. And it's like after that point, hey, you got
all bets are off. All bets are off. So
same thing with Owen when he went for the gun. I'm like, what the fuck you doing, dude?
Yeah.
Like you have a pregnant one right there. You really want to play a Mexican standoff right now? Just like,
And I think that too. Okay, full circle, right? It is. I think the ultimate perspective and the ultimate point of the show is to show that everybody operates in shades of gray. Nobody is all good and nobody is all bad, and we're gonna get that next season. And again, I think in a lot of ways, I might end up really. I'm excited actually to see more of Abby's side of things, because I have a little bit of that teased as far as what I've seen, but it seems like the game really does try to get you to sympathize with her a lot.
Oh yeah.
And it really shows you is like everybody's kind of a victim of the circumstances that they're in. Is just like Abby's friends and Ellie's friends just got in the middle of this crazy beef between these two people because Joel made a split-second hasty decision, which again, I still don't think necessarily was the wrong choice. But again, it shows that everybody's decisions have consequences. Joel's decision to save Ellie had consequences, which led to his own death.
Right.
Joel's death has consequences because now you have ignited this spark inside of Ellie that has always been there, her kind of lust for violence.
Yeah.
And now Abby has ignited that. And Ellie has gone on this journey now where she kind of fully gives into the dark side, or to reference Dexter, her dark passenger. And now we are at a point where Ellie has become just as bad as Abby, wherein she's now killed Abby's friends just to get to her.
Yeah.
Wherein Abby caused a catastrophe in Jackson by awakening all of the infected there, destroying the town, causing the deaths of I don't know how many people.
Right.
Just to kill one man. So, again, as somebody who has not fully played the games, I feel like we're going to come to a point where they're going to both be very much so confrontational. You took everything from me. No, you took everything from me. You're bad. No, you're bad. Oh, wait, we're just as bad as each other. If we kill each other, we're just continuing with that cycle of violence. We've gone so far. I think we've got to just come to a mutual agreement and understanding. You've done some stuff that you're not proud of. I've done some stuff that I'm not proud of, but we're both trying to make the world a better place and atone for those mistakes that we've made. Maybe I shouldn't have killed Joel. Maybe I shouldn't have come to Seattle on a rage mission and killed your friends. All right, cool. We're never going to be friends, but we can go our separate ways. And I think that ultimately that's kind of where we're going to go. But again, I could be wrong, and they've already changed a lot of things from the games, it seems like. And I think, if nothing else, this shows that I actually did enjoy the show. I have a lot of nitpicks, but I really did enjoy it. I'm excited to go fully play the games and actually sit down and really see this story.
Right. Yeah.
Listen,
no, like, oh, go ahead. Ryan.
I've said it. I've said it. No, it's okay. I've said it that like, am I mad that Joe died? No, I think it was an inevitable thing.
Right.
I think he knew about that and he made peace with that. And it's that line of like, if I had to take the chance of that moment, I would do it all over again. He knows he's not going to heaven if there is such a thing. Like, he knows he's not an angel.
Right.
You know, for him, heaven is right there in Ellie. Like her,
right.
You know, that you know, he got to see her smile and like be happy. Like there's no price bigger than that right there for him. And I've said it from the get-go. Like, I don't blame Abby for wanting to do what she did. It's what she did and how she did it that still like scarred me and bugs me. And the notion of like, and you know, if you go back and watch my reaction when she says, defenseless man, you know, you shot him in the head. Like, no. Your daddy was willing to pull up a whatever they call it, a fucking knife or a scalpel to defend his stance between Ellie and Joel. And, like, and I've always said, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. You know, like I get it, Mr. Abby, but like you fuck with the wrong dad. And I think I would have, you know, again, my perspective was always in the game of like, I hope like Abby realizes, like, okay, you were just to go after Joel, but that comes with a price. And that means that your friends who were witnesses and conspirators, they get to kick the bucket. That's the price. And now the price for Ellie is that like you finally stepped into Joel's past that he tried his best to keep you away from. I'm like, no, it's too dangerous. No, you got to train patience. Like now you got to feel for it. And now you have to live with that. And again, I really dug this season. I'm going to wait a week or so to see how I feel about it as a whole. But to me, they did 2-3 episodes that can go head to head to any of the episodes they did in season 1.
Yeah.
And from my opinion, they did a lot of world building within 7 episodes. That's a tough act to do.
A lot of expansions. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, again, I joke, and I'm probably not joking, that like I'm gonna have to maybe, you know, have a little sip here and there for next season per week. But I'll admit, there is a moment in Abby's story that I do at one point settle down. Like, okay, I'm willing to watch this. I'm willing to like see how this plays out. But that takes a while into her story. So I'm like, okay, let's see if we get there. And they've already hinted at stuff. If you're a gamer, when Ellie goes through the room in that aquarium, I saw stuff that I'm like, oh, I know what that means. I know what this implies.
Yeah, okay.
And like,
there's a lot of stuff that I missed then.
There's stuff that wasn't shown to you deliberately because either I'll leave it at that. Like you say, it was deliberately stuff that wasn't shown to you, and yet there's breadcrumbs for that for you.
Right. Which again is why I think too the show is certainly, while yes, it's an ode to the games and an homage to the story that created the show, but in a lot of ways I still think it's very much so made for the general audience member. And I'd love to see that statistic too, is how many people that are watching the show are fans of the game and how many people are watching the show because it's a zombie show on HBO
Right.
that had Pedro Pascal in it. Like, I feel like you're going to have a lot more people that are watching it for that reason versus people that are watching it because they're fans of the games. And again, as there's a big sect of the game community that is either specifically avoiding the show because it diverts from the game too much for them, or they're just not watching it because it's not the story that they enjoy. And I see the perspective on all ends. And like I said, again, I had a ton of nitpicks. I ended this season feeling like, okay, I don't necessarily love Ellie as much as I might have in the first season, but I think, again, like, to your credit, I think that that's kind of the point.
Right.
But I'm excited to go into next season and see the other side of the story and see the other side of the coin and the other side of this equation and learn why I should sympathize with Abby.
Yeah, look, I'm really curious because I've always kind of liked Abby, but also that's from the perspective that, like, I knew Joel was going to die before I even started the games, before I even started the show. I knew that going in, and I knew there was going to be a divergence at some point. I knew that going in, so I feel like I went in with that open mind. I knew the destination before I started the journey, and I think that does help a little bit. And I feel like they're going to even, I imagine, like, coming on this season, I already kind of like Abby, or at least what Abby kind of stands for.
I do too, in a way.
Like, by the end of episode 2, I'm like, I kind of get it. Like, yes, you shouldn't have done that, obviously, but, like, I get where she's coming from, where it's like, if we were watching, Ron's gonna shoot me inside the head. I know it. But
no.
Shoot you inside the head.
If we were watching any other show, she's our protagonist, right? Like, she is just on the level as like Rick Grimes would be, where it's like, yes, she would be praised for her actions if we were watching a different thing. And I think that's what makes it so interesting. It's like, oh, it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
Ellie, like, if we were viewing this from her perspective, Ellie coming in here shooting a pregnant woman and her friends, like, she is an evil person. So
literally you could very much so frame it from Abby's perspective. Like, the daughter of the man who killed my father comes to my hometown, kills my friends, and wants to kill me. Like, from that if you look at it from that perspective again, or referencing the Star Wars side of things, that's the truth from a certain point of view.
Right.
Yeah, and I always tell folks that, like, to me, and again, it's perspective. That line from both the game and the show, we let you live, I let you live, and you wasted it. It's like, sure, yeah, but, like, I saw Kill Bill, and in Kill Bill, they completely, in my opinion, done it the best way, where, like, the bride kills, I forget her name.
Yeah.
In front of her daughter.
Right,
in the
and
kitchen.
it's like, hey, if you want to come back and kill me later, go for it.
I'm ready.
I'll be here.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I thought that was simple, in a fucked up way, respectful and honest. And I was just like, it wasn't like, hey, I did the right thing. I'm not him. When I was like, no, you fucking tortured a guy. He just shot you down the head quicker.
Right.
And so, like, that perspective plays a big hand. And, like, and I hope people also realize this, that, like, I respect and adore Laura Bailey. I fucking respect and adore Caitlin Dever.
Yeah.
La quiero mucho. But Abby, fuck that puta. Like, there is
valid. Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you,
you are 100% allowed to have that feeling. That's
like,
but in a weird way too. I was kind of excited when she came back. I was like, finally. Like, we've been waiting like 5 episodes. Like, where the heck have you been for the last 5 episodes? But I guess that's what next season's about.
There's a lot of fun things with her that I'm excited to see how they adapt it, and I'm excited to get there. Yeah.
Y'all, the stuff they've added with the Seraphites and the wolf, is mind-bending to me. Like, that, there's stuff that wasn't in the game that we got. Like the one scene with the little girl and her dad, and teaching her all the whistles and with the hammer, like. I remember seeing that hammer, and, like, it flipped me off. It freaked me out, because if you go back and watch just the promo of the game for part 2, that hammer comes up a lot. And it's just fascinating. And so like I'm gonna say this. You barely got a taste of Gustavo's new stuff. Gustavo Santaolalla, the composer, his new stuff for the second game. Wait till season 3, and then eventually when season 4 comes out, because there's some tracks that haven't been put out yet that like, ooh,
Yeah,
ooh.
and I mean, I'd argue all around the season, most of the supporting characters are, if not better, done in such a different way that I loved. I'd argue better. Like I think Dina's better than the games. Jesse's better than the games. I have to replay it.
Jesse,
but Isaac,
oh no.
Isaac, I feel like they've done a lot of cool things with him.
So much more.
Yeah, and
He seems
It's not
fun.
even
He
funny.
seems fun.
It's not even funny, guys. Like listen to Gianni. It bugged him how much they casted Jeffrey Wright, and we barely got shit with him in the game.
I
And
think
it's
that's
just,
why I
thank God for
don't
the show.
remember him inside the games, because like when he showed up, I was like, I know this is someone big, but it's not coming to me in the moment.
clicking.
So it's I mean, we're heading towards the end here. We're kind of running out of time a little bit, but I do want to ask about Jesse Taz, because you were spoiled about that, right? You did know it was coming.
Oh no.
But okay, so here's the thing. Even if I wasn't spoiled about it, that is the biggest like foreshadowed thing throughout the entire episode. Like literally maybe 3 to 5 times he was like, I'm gonna be a dad. I can't die.
I'm gonna be a dad.
I didn't come all the way to Seattle just to die.
Yeah,
hey
that was
Ellie,
a
we
little
can't do that. That's gonna kill us. Oh, like they very heavily hit
That's
you over the
valid.
head with, this is his last episode. He is going to die. This is his last episode. He is going to die. Like, just in case you forgot it, Jesse's gonna die this episode. But like the way he died was so dumb. I know it's exactly how he died in the game. But this guy who you've seen like kind of very tactically like sweep rooms and like, check around and like figure out where people are. He hears gunshots in the next room and runs out the door without checking anything. Just runs out the front door and gets immediately blasted in the face. Like, how do you think that's going to end?
I get it. And like to me, what's fascinating is when I look at these shows, and when a character spends time who have their own moral and their own rules, and they spend a moment seeing a perspective of somebody else, like that moment before they go run up the aisle, he talks to Elliot like, maybe I wanted to leave you. Maybe I was convinced. He's, nope, I wasn't convinced. But in that moment, he realized, yeah, I have my own rules, but I also know you well enough that like you're so stubborn that even if it was me in peril, you would burn this city to the ground just to go for me, and that means a lot to him as well. So that's why I think that like again, Tommy, him being a very like mentor for him, and having that side of like yes, Jackson is a community, but we're a community as well. And so he probably like again, he probably wasn't again like he wasn't thinking, he was going on heart.
Yeah.
And I have no idea when. And again, I love I get it. Shows have to do on the next week on The Last of Us. In that video, they show the shot of him running up the aisle with Ellie, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, no, they're gonna
because everybody was talking about that. Yeah.
Don't go through the door. I've seen
Yeah.
all the
No, Jesse, don't run through that door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to be done, but I still think it's quite ridiculous that that's how he dies. After all that he survived, he gets just straight up blasted by Abby. Yeah.
It is
Have fun
funny.
playing part 2, Taz.
It is funny
Yeah.
though, where like people was like, okay, maybe Joel won't die this time. He dies. Maybe Jesse won't die this time. He won't.
Dude, we've been
Shimmer,
like
though,
we've been
Shimmer's good to
hardcore
go.
coping. Yeah. Yeah.
You should have seen me when we stopped recording. How I would once in a while bring up Shimmer. Like, what about Shimmer? What about Shimmer? What about Shimmer? Like,
Shimmer is no longer a horse. Shimmer is absolutely 100% the goat.
Yeah. No, like I brought it up a couple episodes back when like he was supposed to die, and I was like, I don't know if I should bring this up. But Shimmer freaking dies, and he didn't. And I was like, what the hell? Is he good?
Shimmer MVP of the whole show. Better character than even Joel. No, I'm kidding.
let's just say also for gamers, when Ellie goes to the aquarium and confronts Mel and Owen, somebody else was there, another character that was also supposed to die that wasn't there. and I'll leave that until season 3 when you meet.
I
the character
did
bring him
hear
up.
that. I did hear that. So
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah. I mean, I have an early morning. I work in about 6 hours, so we are going to wrap this stream up here. Let me go through a couple of these comments here really quickly. Cody said the Abby side of the game is a lot meatier than Ellie's. I would agree. I would say there's a lot of stuff there to like. I feel like
Action.
Ellie stuff is more kind of like chill for the most part. It's them kind of chilling. Where Abby's just like there's a lot of meat on those bones to kind of go through. From what I played, I haven't finished the Abby side, but I played most of it. Naruto, not connected to Last of Us at all. Darren, what season of Doctor Who are you on now? Of the 2005 run, we finished season 5 a couple months ago. We haven't gone through season 6 yet because currently airing of the new stuff, so I've been kind of taking a break from that, but I'm excited to hop in more to Matt Smith stuff. Cody said, Abby was really fun to play as there's a particular thing I'm excited about for season 3. Amazing. Cody said, Abby has some of my favorite moments, and Roden can probably back me up on that. Can you back him up on that, Roden?
On Abby having some of the best moments?
Yeah.
I don't know about that one, Chief. That's what
It's
that's
only-
what it sounds like.
It's only up until a new element is presented in Abby's story that I can maybe play that. I'll say this: melee wise in the game. Once I calm down and be like, okay, fuck this, puta, she killed Joe, but like, all right, now I gotta play her. Once I calmed down and I started playing her, it felt like Rambo Part 2. It felt like playing like a good shoot 'em up game, if you will. But yeah, I'm even though there's moments where I did get emotional covering the season, I'm very interested to see how I'm going to take season 3. I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out. I still stand where my thoughts are with the game and the route they chose to go with the franchise. But I like to think that even the ideas I wouldn't do or I think are bad, I'm ready to see how they're going to play out because it's not my money, not my time. And so I'm interested to see what Kaylin does that honors what Laura did and yet does her own thing. Because already there's differences between her Abby and Laura's Abby.
Right, 100%. 100%. But with that being said, we are going to wrap this up. Ronan, you have your stream starting in 6 minutes. So if you want to hear more of Ronan's thoughts on The Last of Us along with Johnny and whoever he has on his panel tonight, go check it out. Streaming soon. Ronan, anywhere else people need to find you, what you've been working on, what you've been doing?
What can I tease already? Because, first of all, always thank you for letting me hang out with y'all and talk to y'all. This is the stuff that gets me willing to wake up each day. I'm like, oh shit, I might talk with boys and my friends. So yeah, I'm covering Last of Us. The podcast is going to keep going onwards. I think I'm still going to try to do a stream for Andor because I haven't finished saying my thoughts on it, just because scared and stuff, if you will. But so I'll still have thoughts on Andor, and then after I'm done with Andor and Last of Us for the season, unless news drops from Naughty Dog, to Dumb event in about a week or so, and then Summer Game Fest, and then I may or may not start covering some manga or some anime stuff that I've been having in the background. I'm like, there's a show I want to see. Should I cover it and drop a review? Maybe. So keep an eye on that. There's a lot growing. And then in July, San Diego Comic-Con is happening, and we have some ideas and stuff we want to do.
Nice.
That's going to be a fun era for sure. Taz, what you cooking up? You got any clips from this week you want to cook up?
Yeah. So youtube.com/toxictaz, and I'll definitely be chopping up this Last of Us segment this week. And then if we do get to talk about Andor next week, that'll be next week's content. But yeah, very fun. Very fun
Indeed. For us, obviously, After the Credits will be back next Monday. We haven't officially set in stone. Taz will have to talk a couple minutes after we're done here just to set down what we're doing. But we will for sure have the Doctor Who finale. We'll probably have more Dexter to talk about. Maybe something here and there where we want to talk about. Maybe Andor next week as well.
Yes.
If you want to go over that. I know it hasn't really hit me that it's done for what is at least a year now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
What else we working on? Pipeline this week. This Thursday, we'll be doing our episode on Lilo and Stitch, the new live-action adaptation of the new movie. I have lots of thoughts on that.
Oh boy!
And Sunday, I may or may not do a birthday live stream. Just chilling with you folks then. So keep an eye out for that.
Happy early birthday!
Thank you. I have a couple games in mind. I'm thinking about maybe streaming on Sunday. So
sounds fun.
Keep an eye.
Feliz early birthday, Darren.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we will catch y'all